Welcome dear audience, students and scholars. Here I'm Dr. Amjad. In this video we will learn about saving and investment in a small open economy. Dear scholars, so far as in our discussion of international flow of goods and capital, we have rearranged accounting identity. That is, we have defined some of the variables that measure transactions in an open economy, and we have shown the links among the variables that follow from the definition. So here our next step is to develop a model that explain the behavior of these variables. We can then use the model to answer the questions such as how the trade balance responds to change in policy. So let's discuss the capital mobility and the world interest rate. In a moment, we present a model of international flow of capital and goods because the trade balance equals the net capital outflow, which in turn equal the saving minus investment. Our model focus on saving and investment. To develop this model, we use some element that should be familiar with the classical model of closed economy, but in contrast to classical closed economy model, we do not assume that the real interest rate equilibrates saving and investment. Instead, we allow the economy to run a trade deficit and borrow from other countries, or to run a trade surplus and lend to other countries. Okay, if the real interest rate does not adjust to equilibrate saving and investment in this model, what does determine the real interest rate? To answer this question here by considering the simple case of a small open economy with perfect capital mobility. By small mean that this economy is small part of the world market, and thus by itself can have only a negligible effect on world interest rate. By perfect capital mobility mean that resident of the country have full access to world financial markets. In particular, the government does not impede international borrowing or lending. Because of this assumption of perfect capital mobility, the interest rate in small open economy are must equal the world interest rate or static. The real interest rate prevailing in the world financial markets become as our real interest rate and our static. Here we have the world interest rate. Okay, residents of a small open economy need never borrow at any interest rate above our static, because they can always get a loan at our static from abroad. Similarly, residents of this country need never lend at any interest rate below our static, because they can always earn our static by lending abroad. Thus, the world interest rate determine the interest rate in our small open economy. So here our topic of discussion, that what determine the world real interest rate in a closed economy. The equilibrium of domestic saving and investment determine the interest rate. But here we have the question that who determine the world interest rate. Okay, why we assume a small open economy? The analysis we are using here assume that the nation being studied is a small open economy, which examine short-run fluctuation in an open economy. This assumption raises some question like, is the United States well described by the assumption of small open economy? Because the Mankiw follow the pattern, or the trade pattern, or the consumption pattern, or all the macroeconomic variables related to United States. That's why we have to highlight these questions here. So the answer of this question is no, it is not, at least not completely. United States does not borrow and lend in world financial market, and these markets exert a strong influence over the US real interest rate. But it would be an exaggeration to say that US real interest rate is determined solely by the world financial market. Second question is that so why are we assuming a small open economy? Some nations such as Canada and the Netherlands are better described by the assumption of small open economy, yet the main reason for making this assumption is to develop understanding and institution for the macroeconomics of open economy. Assuming a small open economy simplify the analysis greatly and therefore will help clarify our thinking. The third question is that can we relax this assumption and make the model more realistic? Yes, we can, and we will in the coming section, that considering the more realistic and more complicated case of a large open economy. Here we are trying to focus on only small open economy. Okay, the model. To build the model of small open economy, we take the three assumptions. The first case is the economy's output is fixed. We have the y is equal to y over bar, or we have the y fixed, and we have the k over bar and l over bar. This means that the factor of production are also fixed. The second assumption, consumption is positively related to disposable income, y minus t. So we can write it c is equal to c into y minus t. And the third assumption, investment is negatively related to real interest rate r. So we can write it I is equal to IR. Okay, these are the three key parts of our model. If we do not understand these assumptions, I will suggest you to watch some of videos of third chapter, that is national income, where it comes from and where it goes. So we can rearrange our accounting identity and write it and x is equal to y minus c minus g into I. So here we have net export is equal to S minus I. So our net export is equal to the difference between the saving and investment. So substituting the classical assumptions and the assumption that interest rate equals the world interest rate, the model become as we have the net exports is equal to y over bar minus c into y over bar minus t minus g. So we can subtract I into R static with the world interest rate. So the net exports is equal to the fixed saving, the difference between this fixed saving and the world investment and world interest rate. This equation shows that the trade balance net exports depends on those variables that determine saving and investment, because saving depends on fiscal policy. We have lower government purchases, G for the higher taxes, and the T raises the national saving, and we have investment depends on the world interest rate are static. So higher interest rate makes some investor or investment projects unprofitable, and the trade balance depends on these variables as well. Okay, for the further discussion or the explanation of our model, let's discuss the saving and investment in a small open economy with a graphical presentation. We have saving and investment on our horizontal axis, and we have the interest rate, real interest rate, on our vertical axis, and we have the fixed saving. We have the vertical line of saving. So when our saving and investment curve, or we can say the real interest rate curve, interest rate or saving saving curve, which is the horizontal, we get the interest rate if the economy is closed, and if the economy is not closed, then we have a world interest rate are static, and we have here the difference between saving and investment is we have this trade surplus. So in a closed economy, the real interest rate adjust the equilibrate saving and investment at this point, and that is real interest is found where the saving and investment curve cross each other. In a small open economy, however, the real interest rate uh, equal the world real interest rate. So at this point you might wonder about mechanism that causes the trade balance to equal the net outflow. The determinants of capital flow are easy to understand. When saving falls short of investment, investors borrow from abroad. When saving exceeds investment, the excess is lent to other countries. But what causes those who import and export to behave so to ensure that the international flow of goods exactly balance this international flow of capital? We have to answer this question in our coming slides. So here we have proved that a closed economy real interest rate adjust the equilibrate saving and investment. In a small open economy, the interest rate is determined in the world financial market. The difference between the saving and investment determine the trade balance. Here there is a trade surplus because at the world interest rate saving exceeds the investment. So this is our investment function, because we know that investment is not negatively related to a real interest rate. Okay, thus the trade balance is determined by the difference between the saving and investment at world interest rate. Okay, as we have highlighted here, we have a main question that how policies influence the trade balance so that the economy begins in a position of balanced trade, that at the world interest rate investment equals saving and the net exports equal to zero. So let's our model to predict the effect of government policies at we have the fiscal policy at home and fiscal policy at abroad, and the shifts in investment demand, and we have the evaluating economic policies, our policy. So first start our fiscal policy at home. Consider first what happens to the small open economy if the government expands domestic spending by increasing government purchases. The increase in government purchases reduces national saving, because S is equal to Y minus C minus G. With an unchanged world real interest rate, investment remains the same. So therefore saving falls below investment, and some investment must now be financed by borrowing from abroad, because net exports is equal to the difference between saving and investment, S minus I. The fall in saving implies a fall in net exports. The economy runs a trade deficit. Okay, here we have the same case, the same logic applies to decrease in taxes. A tax cut lowers T, raises disposable income. Y minus T stimulates consumption and reduces national saving. Okay, because net exports is equal to the difference between saving and investment, the reduction in national saving in return lower the net exports, even though some of the tax cut finds its way into private saving. Public saving falls by the full amount of the tax cuts in the total saving as the total saving falls. So for the further discussion about how the fiscal policy at home affect the trade balance of a small open economy, let's discuss graphical presentation. Here we have investment saving on our vertical axis, and we have we have the investment and saving on the horizontal axis, and we have uh, real interest rate at vertical axis. Here we have saving S1 and investment function, and we have the world interest rate and a fall in the expansion at home of small open economy. We are discussing a fall, a fiscal expansion at home in a small open economy. So here the economy begins with the balanced trade. Okay, by reducing government spending or government purchases, an increase in the government purchases or reduction in taxes or government revenue, saving saving falls, reduce our national saving, and then our saving curve will be shift to left side, and we have here the fiscal expansion, reduce our saving. Then we have a net exports is greater than zero. We have a trade deficit here. So a fiscal policy change that increases private consumption or public consumption G, reduces national saving Y minus C minus G, and therefore shift the vertical line that represent the saving from S1 to S2, because net exports is the distance between the saving and the investment schedule. At the world interest rate, the shift reduces our net exports, and we are facing a trade deficit. So it is found that an increase in government purchases or reduction in taxes reduces national saving, and thus shift the saving to the left side from S1 to S2. The result shows that there is a trade deficit. Hence, starting from the balanced trade, from this point, a change in the fiscal policy that reduces national saving, we are in this position, and reduced saving leads to a trade deficit in the economy. So let's move towards the fiscal policy abroad. Consider now what happens to a small open economy when foreign government increase their government purchases. So if these foreign countries are a small part of the world economy, then their fiscal change has a negligible impact on other countries. But if these foreign countries are a large part of the world economy, their increase in government purchases reduces world saving overall. Okay, the increase in world saving causes the world interest rate to rise, just as in the closed economy model. We have to remember that we have Earth in as a closed economy. So the increase in the world interest rate raises the cost of borrowing, and thus reduces investment in the small open economy. And because there has been no change in the domestic saving S now exceed investment I, and some of the saving begins to flow abroad, because our net exports is equal to difference between saving and investment. The reduction in I must also increase in net exports. Hence, reduced saving abroad leads to a trade surplus at home. So for the better understanding of how the fiscal policy abroad impact on the trade balance of a small open economy, let's discuss with a graphical presentation. Okay, saving and investment in a small open economy. Here we have saving and investment on our horizontal line, and we have the real interest rate or on vertical line. We have the saving, and we have the investment function, the intersection of the saving and investment. We get the R1 is our world interest rate. So if the world interest rate increases from R1 to R static 1 to R static 2, we have an increase in the world interest rate, and we have a higher net export. Okay, here we have reduces investment and leads to a trade surplus. So keep in mind that how a small open economy is starting from the balance. Here we have a balance point. Trade responds to foreign fiscal expansion because the fiscal change is occurring abroad. The domestic saving and investment our curves remain the same. The only change in an increase in the world interest rate from R1 static to R2 static, the trade balance is the difference between the saving and investment. So this is our saving and this is our investment. So the trade balance, we have here trade surplus. Okay, hence we found that starting from the balance, an increase in the world interest rate due to our fiscal expansion abroad leads to a trade surplus in a small open economy. So it is clear that fiscal expansion in a foreign economy large enough to influence the world saving and investment raises the world interest rate from R static 1 to R static 2. The higher world interest rate reduces the investment in small open economy and causes a trade surplus. Here, shift in investment demand. Consider what happens to a small open economy if its investment schedule shift outward. That is, if the demand for investment goods at every interest rate increases. So this shift would occur if, for example, the government changes the tax laws to encourage investment by providing an investment tax credit. Okay, for the better understanding how a shift in the investment demand schedule effect on the small open economy, let's see a graphical presentation here. Okay, a shift in the investment schedule in a small open economy. We have an investment saving on the horizontal axis, and we have the real interest rate on a vertical axis. We have saving, fixed saving, and we have the investment function IR1, and here we have the world interest rate R static 1. Okay, shift in investment. Here we have an increase in investment demand, and this increase in investment demand shift our demand curve on the rightward. So we have net exports is less than 0, so this leads to a trade deficit. So the outward shift in the investment curve increases from IR1 to IR2, increases the amount of investment at the world interest rate R. As the result, investment now exceeds saving, which means the economy is borrowing from abroad and running a trade deficit because we have a small open economy. So at a given world interest rate, investment is in a higher position because saving is unchanged. In the small open economy, some investment must now be financed by borrowing from abroad because capital flow into the economy to finance increased investment, the net capital outflow is negative, putting different, because we have net export is equal to difference between saving and investment. The increase in investment implies a decrease in net exports. So hence, starting from the balance trade, an outward shift in the investment schedule causes a trade deficit. Evaluating economic policies, the model of the open economy shows that the flow of goods and services measured by the trade balance is, we are saying that, inseparably connected to the international flow of funds for capital accumulation. So the net capital outflow is the difference between the domestic saving and domestic investment, and thus the impact of economic policies on the trade balance can always be found by examining their impact on domestic saving and domestic investment. Okay, here policies that increase investment or decrease saving tend to cause a trade deficit, and policies that decrease investment or increase saving tend to cause a trade surplus. So our model of the open economy has been positive, not normative. That is, our analysis of how economic policies influence the international flow of capital and goods has told us that whether these policies are desirable or not. So evaluating economic policies and their impact on the open economy is a frequent topic of debate among economists and policymakers. When a country runs a trade deficit, policymakers must confront the question of whether it represents a national problem. Most economists view that a trade balance or a trade deficit not a problem in itself, but perhaps a symptom of the other problem in the economy. A trade deficit could be a reflection of low saving. In a closed economy, low saving leads to low investment, and a small future um, uh, uh, capital stock in an economy. Low saving leads to a trade deficit and a growing foreign debt, which eventually must be a report. In both cases, high current consumption leads to a lower future consumption, implying that future generation bear the burden of low national saving. Yet trade deficits are not always a reflection of an economy's economy is going to a bad. When poor rural economies develop into a modern industrial economy, they sometimes finance their high level of investment with foreign borrowing. In these cases, the trade deficits are a sign of economic development. For example, we have the case of South Korea run trade deficit throughout the 1970s, and it became one of the successful stories of economic growth. The lesson is that one cannot judge economic performance from the trade balance alone. Instead, we must look at underlying causes of international flows. So this is all about saving and investment in a small open economy. So see you with another video. Ciao.